in this unit, remember we're starting with congruent triangles. What do you think I mean when I say congruent triangles? They're the same, right? You know congruent means equal, so something has to be the same. So incongruent triangles, they're triangles with the same shape and size, but not necessarily the same orientation. So they have the same shape and size, but not necessarily the same orientation. And then that means all their corresponding parts are congruent. So the pieces that match on each triangle, they're going to be equal to each other. So we got all triangles with the same shape and size, but they don't necessarily have to be turned the same way. And then all their corresponding parts are congruent. So I'm going to give you an example of what congruent triangles look like. Now you can go ahead and kind of sketch a, pretty general idea of these triangles there. So the reason I know these are congruent, they have corresponding angles that are the same. So angle Q and angle J, they all have that one arc in them. R and K have the 2 arcs, and P and L have the 3 arcs. So we all know those go together. Those are the corresponding parts. So those corresponding angles are congruent. Now, if you sketch it, it might not be perfect on your paper, but as long as it's marked, you should be able to know what they're talking about. Okay? And then you got the sides that are marked congruent. So you got side PR that's marked to side KL, and those are equal because they have both have the 1 slash through them. Then side QP and then side JL, they're congruent because they got 2 slashes through them each. And then QR and JK are congruent because they have the 3 strikes through them, the side. So now we know which sides are congruent, we know which angles are congruent, and we can match that up between each triangle. Okay? So remember we said they had to have the same shape and the same size, and the angles are going to be the same. Okay? So if they're not congruent, we should be able to tell those are not congruent because they're the same shape, yes, but they're not the same size. One is definitely bigger than the other. Okay? Now all the angles are the same, and you can match up corresponding angles, but you can't say the sides are the same. I can't match it up from one triangle to the next. Okay? Every one on each particular triangle are the same, but they don't go across the 2 triangles. And what you'll learn next unit is these triangles are similar, but they're not congruent. Okay? So you kind of just sketch a freehand picture of what that looks like. Just wanted to make sure we could get a good definition. Okay? So when you have triangles that are congruent, you can write a congruency statement. And what that does is going to match all the corresponding parts. So when you're writing congruency statements, order matters. The order matters when you write these out. All right, so we got the same picture. And so now we're going to write a congruency statement. I just want to make sure we're clear on how to write that. So when I have to make the congruency statement, it's very easy if you know all of which angles match each other. Because then you just want to match, basically playing a matching game, match the pieces together. So when I start with my first triangle, it really doesn't matter. Just, you got 3 points, you got 3 angles, just put them down in some order. Doesn't matter. My order might be different than your order, okay? So let's start off, we got triangle, and let's just call it PRQ, okay? So then we know triangle PRQ is that triangle to the left. And to do our congruency statement, it will tell us that triangle PRQ is congruent to, and then we got to name the other triangle. Now, we can't name the other triangle all willy-nilly. Like if we've given this one an order, now we have to play matching the pieces, okay? So we started with angle P. So angle P in the left triangle matches which angle in the right triangle? L, okay? Angle R in the left triangle matches which angle in the right one? K. And you know that because, well, this one is put in different colors, but because of markings. Okay, this one, the R has 2, K has 2. And then angle Q matches which angle? Angle J. So now if I had to write my congruency statement, I could say triangle PRQ is congruent to triangle LKJ. And that order has to matter. So if this is how you have the first one set up as PRQ, then the second one has to say LKJ in order to be matched up. Okay? Now, I could rename that first triangle. I can do something different. So what if I say triangle QRP? And this is valid because everybody won't always name them the same. We're still just going to match the pieces to do our congruency statement. So now what matches with Q? J. Well, triangle J. What matches with R? K. And what matches with P? L. So this triangle QRP is congruent to triangle JKL. Now, each one of those is still talking about the same triangle, but the congruency statement matters to match up the pieces. Are we okay? All right, so now take out the... All right, so let's look at this first question. It says, write a valid congruency statement given the triangles below. So you got two triangles. They're all marked up. You know which angles match each other. You know which sides match each other. Now it's just a thing of picking them and writing them out. So I can say triangle ABC is congruent to, now we got to match it up. So what matches with angle A? D. What matches with angle B? E. And what matches with angle C? F, right? So it should be easy to match the angles up, but I can also use the congruency statement to actually make sure the sides are actually matched up. So remember, we use two letters to come up with the side. So side AB is the side with the 1 mark, and that should match side DE, which also has the 1 mark. Okay? Side BC has the 2 marks, which should match side EF because they're in the same order, EF, which has the 2 marks. And then side AC has 3 marks, should match side DF, which has the 3 marks also. So not only should I be able to tell which angles are equal, I should be able to also tell which sides are equal to each other. Okay? All right, let's look at the second one. Now, the first one I gave you triangles, you need to write the congruency statement. The second one, I'm gonna give you a congruency statement, no picture, and you should be able to tell me which angles are gonna be equal, which sides are gonna be equal to each other, okay? So now looking at this statement here, I can say that angle J is congruent to which angle? P, because J is the first angle, the first letter listed, and so P is the first letter listed here. This is why the order matters. Okay, you can't just put them all anywhere when you're writing your congruency statement. They have to match up. So then I know A should be congruent to angle what? Should be congruent to angle Q because they're both in the second spot in these statements. Then angle L is congruent to angle R because it's the third one. Okay. Now we can go through and do the same thing with the sides. Remember, the sides have to use 2 letters. So I can start side JK is going to be congruent to which side? PQ, because JK is the first 2 letters on the left, so you need the first 2 letters on the right. So PQ. And then side KL is congruent to side QR. There we go. And then JL is congruent to which side? PR. Okay? Basically, that's as hard as it gets. Matches, find your matches. They're in order. Go from there. Now, take a second. I gave you a congruency statement. But remember, we can write multiple congruency statements for the same triangles because it depends on how you turn them around. I want you to write one. So take a second, come up with another one. One of the examples that you could use is triangle LKJ is congruent to triangle RQP. Okay? All the pieces are still matched up when we go from there. Anybody else come up with something different? Another order? Yes, ma'am. Triangle KLJ is congruent to triangle QRP, and that one works also. Okay. For this next one, we're given the congruency statement. It's not necessarily marked in the picture, but we should be able to figure out which pieces are equal to each other and then be able to find measures that are missing. Okay. So your first thing you want to find is the length of BN. Well, if I look at BN, they didn't tell me what the length is, but I have a congruency statement. So BN should be congruent to what side? Should be SW, right? Because BN is the, first and third letter. So I need the first and third letter on the other one. So it should be congruent to SW. Do we know how long SW is? 9 centimeters. So that would make BN also 9 centimeters. Okay. All right, then what is the length of TW? Because they didn't tell me, but TW should be equal to FN, and FN is 14 centimeters. So that should make TW also 14 centimeters. And then BF, they didn't tell me that, but BF should match ST, which is 17 centimeters. So those are equal because they're congruent triangles. So we know those should be the same. Okay. All right, so now we know what is angle W, because they didn't give it to us. But angle W should match which angle? Angle N, and we know that angle N is 82 degrees, so that would make angle W also 82 degrees. All right, so what's angle B then? Why is it 67? Because it should match angle S. So this should also be 67 degrees. All right, so now what's angle F? Right, there's nothing to match it to. Angle F should be the same as angle T, but I don't know either one of those. But now we're going back to last unit with the triangle angle sum. You got two angles of a triangle, you find the third one, and the third one should be 31 degrees. Okay, so that's how we found out the missing pieces. Everybody okay? And then this last one, they gave you a congruency statement and they want you to find the values of X, Y, Z. So if you know they're congruent, that means we're going to be setting some equal to each other. So let's start with the one with X. And I see that X is on UV, and I'm just going to mark that. What should match UV? Should be TS. And so TS is 53. So that means I can set up the equation 12x minus 7 should equal 53. And now I can solve for x. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides. We get 12x equals 60. Divide by 12. And then we know that x is equal to 5. Now, we want to find y. So y is over here on SR. We're going to mark it differently, more than one slash, because it needs to be different than the ones before. What matches with side SR? VW. VW is 57. Okay, so now I can do 5y minus 33 equals 57. And so now we solve. We're going to add 33 to both sides. We get 5y equals 90 by 5. And then y is equal to 18. Yeah, Jayla, we only got 2 triangles, so they're going to be somewhere between the two. Okay. All right, so now we got to find Z. So this one should be congruent to which side? Should be TR. And so we know that because of your congruency statements above. And we can match the letters. So now we're just going to 3Z plus 14 equals 50. So we're going to subtract 14 from both sides. We get 3Z equals 36. Divide by 3. And Z is equal to 36. Okay. So the good thing about congruent triangles is that something's got to be equal to each other.